Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about hair porosity. Now some of you guys have been specifically asking me for this video, and some of you guys have been asking other people for this video. But I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about hair porosity. Okay. So when dealing with curly hair, there are so many things that we have to take into consideration. You know, your hair's density, your hair's elasticity. We talked about elasticity a lot in the last video. Curl type, ingredients. There's so much to consider when you're dealing with curly hair. But today we're going to be getting to the bottom of porosity. So what on earth is porosity? Porosity refers to how easily or not so easily your hair absorbs moisture. Porosity is defined as the hair's ability to absorb and retain water or water-like product. And there are different levels of it. Now these different levels of porosity really affect like what type of products you can use and what type of products work. So you could find somebody whose hair looks exactly like yours. I mean like identical. But if it has different porosities, then the same products aren't going to work on both of you. By the way, if you saw Tuesday's video, these are the results from the super stretch. So yeah, super big hair, and yeah, I love it. Not all the time, but here and there I like to have, you know, this big fro. Not as defined, but it's big. Let me explain how this whole porosity thing works. So a single strand of hair, like if this is a single strand of hair, it has a bunch of different layers. And the outermost layer, that layer on the outside, is called the cuticle. When you look at the cuticle really close up, you gotta get real personal to see this. It looks sort of like a pine cone. Like, you know, like you'd pick a pine cone up when you're playing outside in 5th grade. It has all these little like things on it. Like, you know, like all these little like flaps that are like laying down in the nice, like symmetrical or maybe not so symmetrical order. So when water can get under those little things in the pine cone, your hair is moisturized. I'm making this really simple, folks. And that's why styling products like gels help fight frizz, because they hold those things down. You know, like you put some gel over it and it can't really get up, like it's holding it down. You know what I'm saying? Now imagine the pine cone pieces are like really like tight, and like imagine like the tiny one, you know, it's like really close and like stubborn and like hard to, you know, like it's like this, like not like this, but like this. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really hard to get under there. When they're tight like that, that is low porosity hair. So this is stupid, but it's going to help you remember it. Tight, low, fight, flow. Okay, tight, low, fight, flow. Like tight, low, fight, flow. That's how you're gonna remember this. So tight, very tight, that's low porosity because it fights the flow of water. Hopefully that's easy enough to remember. This is literally how I make it through school. I just come up with corny things and they work. Now if your hair is dry a lot and it's hard to keep your hair wet, you probably have low porosity hair. And like if when you like spray your hair, the water just like sits on top like little beads and just like rolls right off and just drips right off, you probably have low porosity hair, especially if you're using warm water and that's happening. If you're using warm water like I told you and that's happening, you got low porosity hair, big fella. Or like if your hair dries like really fast after it's wet, or you know, it just doesn't feel like your hair, like your actual hair is getting wet, like there's water on it but it doesn't feel wet, that's low porosity. It's having a hard time getting that water in there. And another sign is if products sit on your hair, like they don't really get in your hair, they just sort of sit on your hair and like it just doesn't really work in your hair really well, like all the time, you probably got low porosity hair. Now if you got medium porosity hair or regular, I like medium better. If you got medium porosity hair, then like, you just chilling, like your hair just doing what it gotta do, like making it happen. You don't really got much to worry about, like you just chilling. You have a nice life. No, but what that essentially means is that your hair opens up when it needs to let the moisture in, and it closes when it needs to hold the moisture in there. It just works like that for you. Now, if you have high porosity hair, then you know the pine cone things, they just open right up, wide open. And this can be a problem because it lets the moisture right in easily, but it also lets it right out just as easily. So that's a real problem with, you know, high porosity hair. Also, if your hair like gets like soaking wet, like drenched like really easily, like it doesn't even take anything really to get your hair actually wet. Like for me, I have to spray it on and then work it in, and then like actually gets in my hair. Like, if you just spray it on, it just like then you might have high porosity. Or if your hair tangles like super easily, like, and this is kind of a itchy topic, but like if it like tangles like nobody's business. Like like the ends of my hair, the ends, that's one thing about my color. The ends like get so tangled like so easily. They're probably high porosity. And so like, although I know all about porosity, I don't really know what porosity I have. It might be high, it might be low, it might just be regular. So there are some tests that you can do to figure out what porosity you have. So we're gonna do that. One of the tests, and it's probably the most popular one, is the water test. So you take one strand of clean hair. You don't want it to have any product on it or product buildup on it. So you take one strand of clean hair, you put it in water, and then you watch it. You leave it there for about 5 minutes and you watch it. If it floats to the top, it's not letting any water in and it's just floating to the top, it's probably low porosity. If it's letting some water in, it's getting a little heavy because of the water weight and it sinks down to like the middle, it's regular porosity. And if it goes all the way down straight to the bottom, then that's high porosity, my friend. But the tricky thing about this is that there's different porosities. Like my roots might be low and my ends might be high, and so it's weird. It's weird. I don't really, it's weird. Okay, it's really weird. Like honestly, the way I figured out what works for me is just trial and error. You know, I didn't really say like, oh, I have this porosity, so let me get products that work with this porosity, because honestly, it's just so complicated and so complex. There's so much that goes into this whole porosity deal. You know, so trial and error does work, but you can try to figure out which porosity you have by doing this test. Another test is when you have clean hair and you just spray water on your hair. Just keep spraying it and just watch what it does. Like, does it just bead right up and drip right off, or does some of it like get synced in, or does it all get like sucked into your hair easily? If it just beads up and falls off, you have low porosity. If some of it sucks in but some of it is still like, you know, drippy and like beading on your hair, you probably have regular porosity. You know, this is not a black and white thing, folks. Like, there's a spectrum there and you fall somewhere on that spectrum. I just don't know if I fall more on the high side or more on the low side. I don't really know. Those are two tests you can do to try to identify your porosity. But like, even when you go to like a hair salon, most of them aren't testing your porosity. You know, they just use what products they think might work for you. So it's sort of just a trial and error process, in my opinion. Now, you can try to test it, but they're just it's so complex. There's so many different ways that it can go, and things that you can do, and things that you can see, and results that you can get. Plus, like, this section of my hair, like just this, like this might be, you know, low porosity, and then the rest of my head be high porosity. Like, you know, it's very complex. I just say trial and error is the best way to go, but this is what porosity is and how you test it. You also have to keep into consideration that buildup is a thing. So heavy oils, silicones, and just products in general can build up on your hair, and so when they're built up on your hair, you know, they hold the pine cone closed, so water can't get in. You know, like, how's water going to get in when there's something covering it? You know, like, there's a cover on it, the water can't get in because there's a cover on it. So your hair needs to be cleaned if you are going to try these tests, or even if you're just going to try to self-identify what porosity you have, because the water has to get in there. And testing it on dirty hair will definitely give you false results. Also, if your hair is chemically processed, the chances are it's probably high porosity. So like me, my ends, you know, because they're colored, they're probably high porosity. And I'm starting to think they are. They tangle up really easily. They take moisture pretty easily. And those are two symptoms of high porosity hair. So now the question becomes, what do you do about it? Like, okay, maybe I figured out I have mostly low porosity hair, mostly high porosity hair. What do you do about it? You know, for low porosity hair, you want to really stick to a lot of water-based products, water-based leave-ins, stuff that's really like liquidy, you know, like not super solid, thick butters and stuff, but more of the creams, you know, the lightweight stuff, because that stuff's going to easily get into your hair because it's so tight. You need, like, imagine trying to get water through a t-shirt versus trying to get like oil through a t-shirt. The water's just going to, the oil's going to like pile up, and then it's just going to like slowly go through. So it's really hard for low porosity hair to take in heavy butters and heavy oils. But with waters and water-based products, it's pretty simple to get that moisture into your hair. Plus, it's very easy to get buildup with low porosity hair, and so lightweight products sort of prevent that a bit. Also, when you are deep conditioning low porosity hair, it helps out a lot because a lot of deep conditioners are thick. So it helps out a lot if you add water, like I always do. Add water to your deep conditioning. So like, add the deep conditioner and then also add some water. It makes the deep conditioner a little more water-based, and it helps it to, you know, work its way in there a lot easier. With low porosity hair, you want to stay away from proteins because they sit on top of your hair and they can be sort of not damaging, but they can make your hair more brittle than normal. So I would stay away from proteins if you have low porosity hair, but then again, it's like, who knows? Like, what if this is low porosity but this is high? So it's very complicated. I would just say use protein, and if it makes your hair feel like crap, stop using it. You know, that's a real tip. You know, that's not the cute YouTube tip. That's the real tip. If it use it and if it sucks, stop using it. But high porosity hair tends to need a lot of moisture. So just keep that into consideration. Make sure your hair is staying moisturized. And if protein's not working for you, then cut it out. Now, if you have high porosity hair, you need lots of moisture and lots of protein. So you need to like be on it. Like you gotta be on it. You gotta be keeping your hair moisturized, and you gotta be giving your hair a lot of protein, because it just needs that. The moisture is gonna help keep your hair balanced and where it needs to be, but the protein is gonna help to strengthen your hair and get it back to a state where it can maybe be regular porosity. And then if you have regular porosity, I mean, you can just do like maybe 1 week deep condition with a moisture-based product, 1 week deep condition with a protein-based product, and you're fine. Like, you're really chilling. You can use whatever you want. The playground is all yours. Like, you own it. You get whatever you want. You get to use whatever you want, do whatever you want. I mean, you just got it easy. Like, you have been blessed. And that is all, folks. But first, let me know what porosity you think you might have. And finally, thank you so much for your time. As always, you know, it is very much appreciated. And I really hope this video was helpful. It was very like informative, but I don't know, I'm always skeptical about like, did I organize this information like in a way that like flows and makes sense? So I hope it was. I really hope it was, because you and I are taking on this curly hair journey together, okay? And I think you guys know that by now. Like, somebody DM'd me today saying that he tried the Kinky Curly Gel and he said he got a lot of flaking. So me and him were chatting to figure out, like, you know, like why it was flaking. You know, I told him, like, did you use a lot of water? Because if you don't use a lot of water, I've noticed that if you don't use a lot of water, it does flake a bit. Then I asked him, did he use the product by itself? Because I noticed when I do use it by myself, after a few days, I do get some flaking. So, you know, we're just chatting to figure it out. So, like, you know, I'm serious, guys. Like, if you want to talk about hair or business or anything, like, let me know. Like, I'm down always to talk about it whenever I have time. But I find time to make time for you, because I committed to helping you, you know, all of you with your hair. So that's sort of my thing, and I like doing it. So yeah, I upload videos to this channel every Tuesday and Friday, so I will catch you guys next week.